What is going on, everyone? I am back with yet another video for you guys today. If you don't know who I am, my name is the Crimson Carver. I am a Warframe content creator over on YouTube and a variety streamer over on Twitch. In this video, we're going to be going over the Warframe Dante, right? This is meant to be a beginner-friendly guide, so it's going to tell you pretty much everything you need to know, right? From where to get him, how to get him, his stats, his abilities, and we're going to wrap it up with some gameplay at the end. So sit back, enjoy the show, hope you guys learned something new. And without further ado, let's get into it. Dante. Dante has 300 health, 150 shield, 145 armor, 200 energy, and a base sprint speed of 1.15. Now, he can be purchased from the market for 350 plat, or you can get his main blueprint from the disruption in the Sanctum Anatomica, right? What happens is, whenever you do the disruption and you get the rewards, you will get these resources called vessel capillaries, and you trade in these vessel capillaries for the Dante blueprints and his subsequent components. Passive. Noctua scans targets, recording information for your codex. Status chance increases by 50% on fully scanned targets. Now what this means is, right, since this, from my understanding, it is not base status chance, it's additive status chance. So keep that in mind. It is on top of the already modded status chance. So just keep that in mind, right? Noctua. Open Noctua, Dante's exalted tome, and unleash a tale of woe upon his enemies. Drain, 5 energy. Drain per shot, 2 energy. Primary fire has 250 slash damage. Number of fragments, 4. Fragments seek angle, 60 degrees. Fragments seek distance, 20 meters. Alternate fire is 2,750 radiation damage. Now, we can reduce the cost of this ability using efficiency mods such as Streamline. That is going to reduce the initial cost, and it's going to reduce the drain per shot. So keep that in mind. Now, if you are having trouble getting mods like Intensify, Continuity, or Stretch, go to the Plains of Eidolon. Look for the Tier 4 bounty that has either Augur Seeker, Augur Secrets, Augur Message, or Augur Reach, right? They're basically going to be your placeholders until you can get more upgraded versions of those mods. So keep that in mind. Now, back on the topic of strength, right? So, strength is going to increase the damage of your Noctua, right? It's going to increase the primary fire and it's going to increase the alternate fire. So if we put on a mod, say, I don't know, Augur Secrets, right? That gives us 24% ability strength. That is then going to increase our primary fire damage and our secondary fire damage, okay? Okay, light verse. Dante's vitalizing components grant him and his allies overguard and increase their health. Drain 25. Health 20%. Overguard 350. Overguard cap 15,000. Radius 20 meters. Now, much like the first ability, and pretty much all of his abilities, we can reduce the cost of the ability with efficiency mods like Streamline. Right? So, that's going to reduce the initial cost. Now, the health, the overguard, and the overguard cap all scale with strength mods. Right? So check this out. We slap that on, that immediately increases the amount of health that is increased, the overguard that you gain per cast, and the overguard cap. Right? And if we put on a range mod, that is going to increase the radius of the ability, meaning if there are people who are further away, the more range we have, the higher chance we have of actually getting them with that buff. So keep that in mind. Dark Verse. Dante's composition draws blood from nearby enemies, inflicting them with slash damage. Drain 25 energy. Damage 1,250 slash. Radius 20 meters. Angle 60 degrees. Now, it is important to note that you cannot adjust the angle at which you can hit them, right? That cannot be modified whatsoever. What we can modify is the cost, using Streamline to reduce the cost of the ability, right? Strength to increase the damage of said ability, and range to increase the radius at which we can target enemies, right? So that increases the radius of the ability, right? More range, more enemies marked. Simple as that. Right, final verse. Now it's important to note that this ability is technically an additional 3 abilities rolled into one. Right? You've got Triumph, you've got Page Flight, you've got Word Warden, right? So what does Triumph do? Well, Triumph. 2 light verses cast in succession invigorate allies with a buff that increases health and grants overguard. Kills and assists briefly regenerate overguard. Alrighty. So, we can reduce the drain or the cost of this ability using efficiency mods, right? Like Streamline. We put this on here, boom, the cost gets lowered. Awesome. Okay. What else? Well, if we slap on a duration mod, watch what happens to the duration of final verse, right? Boom. It gets increased. Hallelujah. Okay. Now, if we slap on a range mod, right? Check this out. We put on a range mod. Boom. We can now increase the radius of the ability. Right? And that is also true for all subsequent abilities under this ability, right? So, let's see. Triumph's Overguard cap, health increase, as well as the Overguard per second and the Overguard is all affected by strength, right? More strength, the better. Boom. See? Unfortunately, you cannot affect the regeneration duration. I'm sorry, that's unmodifiable. But it is what it is, right? Okay. Tragedy. 2 dark verses cast in succession attack enemies. Damage over time from slash, heat, and toxin status effects accumulate in a single blast. Now, this has an initial damage, and it has a damage multiplier, both of which scale with strength, right? More strength, more multiplier, and more damage. Pretty straightforward. Alright, what's next? Word Warden, right? A light verse followed by a dark verse supports allies with copies of Noctua. Noctua copies synchronize their attacks with their designated allies' attacks. Now, unfortunately, this cannot be modified whatsoever. The damage cannot be increased at all. Sucks, but it is what it is. Okay, just keep that in mind. The Word Warden's damage scales off your damage. Okay? And last but not least, Page Flight. A dark verse followed by a light verse summons paragrams that swoop at enemies, making them vulnerable to status chance and status damage. as well as drawing enemy attacks away from allies. Right? So, we can only have a max paragrams of 3. The damage scales with strength. The status damage increase and status vulnerability as well. So yeah, the status damage increase, the status vulnerability scales with strength. The vulnerability duration scales with duration. So keep that in mind. If you want your birds to last longer and do more, scale your strength and duration.
These are worthy foes. Underestimate them. Your peril.
The Orican Neural Sentry is attempting to purge you from this place. Stand by for life support.
And we are forced to act.
Oculists are scanning for targets. A sentient is onto you. Look out for trippers. The longer you hold out, the deeper I can search. But if you need to live, extraction is ready. Fighting Lua in the void risked the unfathomable. I feel we are seeing the consequences of that risk now. Destroy these void-stained enemies. Tenno, if you have a necromech, this would be an excellent place to deploy it.